This week on the battle, it's Love Camp 7 versus House on Straw Hill. Begin fustigation!
Broadcasting from a project studio that's more project than studio. It's Cinema Diabolica's Battle of the Band B Movies. The show that will once and for all crown an undisputed king of Britain's video nasties. And now, here's your hosts, F13 and DZ.
Hey, folks, listen. It's Cinema Diabolica. It's the Battle of the Band B Movies. I'm F13.
This is DZ.
And we are going to actually have a show with movies that I'm interested in talking about this week. I am so excited.
It's because they're full of sex, right?
Yes, that's all that I care about is the naked boobies.
This is a shower titties episode.
This is a. Was it? There was. Yeah, that's right. It's a women in prison film. How is there not going to be shower titties in a movie like that? Hashtag shower titties.
You know I'm going to tweet that at some point.
I'm not going to blame you. You go right ahead and you twiddle your diddle.
Episode whatever this is. What are we on? 6 now?
Who knows? We're not doing a thing with stuff. Getting right into it, we got some feedback. Thank goodness for you. Let's see. From McLovin, he says, hello to the greatest podcast of all time. Just checking in to say that I am still and will always be loving everything that you guys do, and that now because of Dinkles the Clown, I have to check under my bed before I go to sleep. Damn you, and I love you. On an unrelated note, I saw What We Do in the Shadows this weekend and can report that it is one of the funniest goddamn movies I have ever seen. I almost shit my pants laughing. It was so funny. So that's as good of a recommendation as any, I guess. Yours in Eternal Fear of Dinkles, Sean, formerly of Chicago.
Wait, Dinkles the Clown?
Yeah, it was Dingles, but that's fine. Okay.
Yeah, that's a movie that I am interested in. It's gained a lot of traction amongst our fellow movie lovers.
Right, yeah.
And I can't avoid it. It seems like it's on every magazine cover at this point, too, over on the horror-related magazine shelf.
It is. We also got a voicemail, and this happened.
Hey, guys, this is Leather Jacket Buddha.
Holy shit.
I'm on the verge of tears. I'm so happy to be hearing from the Leather Jacket Buddha. Oh, my God.
Wait a minute. Where is he? Where does he give his location in this?
I don't know, but the last time we heard from the Leather Jacket Buddha, and I'm acting like I'm not friends with him on Facebook right now, and I don't know exactly what he's been doing this whole time. The last time we heard from the Leather Jacket Buddha, he was living in China. Let's see what he's doing, what he's up to these days.
Just want to call and say that at least I appreciate all the cramming you did to fit in all those diabolical decades there at the end of the year there.
Yeah, that was...
And I didn't hear too much feedback from the people. So though I'm a little bit late in the game, I just want to say, hey, guys, I appreciate all your efforts and the time you put into the show because I like listening. And I'll keep on listening as long as you put forth the shows. So, with that, I'm running for a train, so this is probably the worst time for me to call. So take care. I appreciate it, and love the show. And again, appreciate all your efforts, and good job fitting all those last-minute shows in there for Diabolica. Later. Bye.
That made my week.
So I'm imagining him. He's like, oh, I have this thought. And then he decides to speed dial us, and then he's like, "Oh shit, I'm almost late for my train."
Right, which is, you do your best thinking like in high stress situations, and of course on the toilet. So that's where I kind of imagine most of our listeners call from, either on the toilet, like running to do something or driving somewhere, or possibly sitting outside of a neighbor's house stealing their Wi-Fi. I don't know. I'm just saying that that's a possibility.
Oh, we're going to get a call from Scorn, and he will be making grunting noises, and we will know why he is grunting.
I definitely know why he's grunting.
I want a shower call. I want someone call. They're like, oh, in the middle of the shower. Oh, I have this really great idea to call into them. I'm going to do that now.
So I was taking a shower the other day, and I had a really great idea. So I put down the chicken leg in my beer, and I picked up the phone, and I called Cinema Diabolica.
No, I mean in the shower. You can actually hear the shower running.
DZ, that was the joke that I was making, is that he was eating and drinking in the shower.
Oh, well, the thing is, I would not be surprised if you didn't, on occasion, have an entire bathtub set up with rose petals and shit and a big fucking beer so you could relax every once in a while.
I do actually. Shower beers are a thing. You go on Reddit, go to reddit.com/r/shower beer, and there's a whole subreddit devoted to people taking pictures of themselves drinking beers in the shower. Now, everyone talks about how relaxing it is and how it's a great way to relax. You know why that is? It's because at elevated body temperatures, you get drunk really fast.
That's why you're not supposed to do that when you're sunbathing.
Correct.
But I don't really believe you, but now I'm going to have to check.
Yes, try it out, folks. This may be the last Cinema Diabolica. I may be coming back to you later saying, folks, I'm sorry, but as he does, DZ took my advice in the totally incorrect way, and he chugged a whole bottle of cold duck while in the shower, and he is dead now. We are here to memorialize stupid DZ who decided to kill himself while drinking in the shower.
Oh, I'm such a lightweight too. Wouldn't take much.
Yeah. Oh, I remember you calling the show line, and you were like, "Hey, it's after 10. I just had a lemon drop, and I'm fucking wasted." And I was like, "A lemon drop, huh? Okay. Well, I mean, it takes all types."
I don't even know what that is.
Wow. Now that's impressive. You blacked out drunk. At any rate, we should probably get to the point here. And the point is that our features this week are Love Camp 7 and House on Straw Hill / Trauma / Expose, a.k.a. many, many, many more things. But we'll be starting our show with Love Camp. Today we're going to be covering the Love Camp 7. To do my best.
Picture pages.
All right, we're going off the rails, DZ. We need to try and focus. All right, focus. Our first feature is Love Camp 7, and we'll be covering that after this.
What do you consider to be unusual?
Oh, I don't know. What do you recommend?
You're listening to Cinema Diabolica.
Have you ever had an Egyptian feast?
Number 1 with a bullet.
This motion picture is not a figment of the writer's imagination. It is based entirely on actual fact. Be prepared to let us take you inside the barbed wire gates of Love Camp 7.
Both of these officers, having full knowledge of the assignment, have agreed to volunteer to help us.
Your arrest and your subsequent imprisonment into the women's camp has all been prearranged by Captain Kelly.
Perhaps your mission has not been clearly explained to you. For the next 5 days, you are going to be whores for the Third Reich.
Well, ladies, I trust you find yourself entirely refreshed after your little shower. I want to welcome you once more to Love Camp 7. You may find it difficult to believe that this motion picture is true. You may find it incredible that 2 young American women would volunteer to throw themselves into the unspeakable indignities and horrible humiliations of a Nazi love camp in order to serve their country. You will follow the factual story of 2 American girls who are taken prisoner by the Nazi Gestapo and placed in Love Camp 7, a camp where women were used like cattle, entirely to service the pleasures and perversions of the Nazi frontline officers. Love Camp 7 is actually filmed on location where the story took place. It is, without a doubt, the most total and complete study in reality this theater has ever had the privilege to present to its patrons. You may not find this story amusing. You may find it horrifying, disgusting. Certainly, you will not find it light entertainment. But we guarantee that you will not live long enough to ever forget the things you will witness and experience inside Love Camp 7.
Hey. All right, we are back. Our first feature this week is Love Camp 7. Now, here's the thing. A lot of times that, a lot of places I looked on the internet, I found Love Camp 7 misrepresented as Love Camp something experiment Love Camp, SS Experiment Love Camp. That's what it's called. People get those two confused a lot.
Yeah, that was actually the same thing that I had trouble with. Because at first I was thinking, haven't we covered this? And then, yeah,
no, that was SS Experiment Love Camp, I believe, that we covered.
But it's like, how many Nazi exploitation films really are there?
That you make a good point. So let's see. In this corner, hailing from 1969, weighing in at 96 minutes, Love Camp 7. Our IMDb style synopsis reads: 2 female army agents go undercover at a Nazi prison camp to get information from a scientist being held there. And that's pretty much the whole movie.
Yeah, there's nothing to it, and these are the worst agents I've ever seen.
So the runtime is 96 minutes. You have 6 minutes of exposition at the beginning and end, where where 2 gents are telling old timey war stories, recalling the war, and that takes up 6 minutes. The other 90 minutes are nude sexual torture scenes. And I'm not overstating that. The vast majority of this movie is nude sexual torture scenes.
Not nude men.
No.
In fact, that's the most pants I've ever seen worn during a sex scene.
You sound like me doing the rundown. And the most pants worn this side of a sex scene. It was a little ridiculous.
Yeah, that's why it's, when it comes to the rating for sex that we're going to give, it's weird because the scenes are so damn long.
Right.
That in reality, if you were to chop out all those scenes, you would realize that that was a huge chunk of the runtime.
Right. The movie would be like 10 minutes long.
Yeah, it's like, oh, here, end cap, beginning and end cap, and that's it. Right. Oh, by the way, I love that it starts off with the story you're about to see is true. The Nazis got a lot of sex.
Right. In a sense, it's true. The movie starts with 2 gents doing business. Like, one's a businessman, the other's a prospective client, and they kind of happen to mention that they're both military men. And he asks him to tell him his craziest story, and this is the story. He tells this story. The movie starts, and basically these 2 female officers are sent in undercover to be captured and find a scientist, get her the information that they need from her, and break her out when the rebels attack.
Yeah, it's not a very well thought out plan.
It is not.
At all. It's like, hey, you 2 are willing to go in. You can. The thing is that no one speaks any language except for English throughout the entire film, so it's not as if they even bothered.
Right. There's no subtitles. Everyone just speaks English, and it really is awful fucking German accents. It really, as far as the level of quality goes, the film basically is like, Klink, I told you to bring the hookers in and have them ready for the sexing. I'm sorry, I'll do best I can. I'll get the hookers ready for the sexing. It really is like on about that level. That's about the quality of the German accents. It's laughably shitty.
Oh, but it gets to this crescendo at the end when one of them is basically crying out in basically a German accent.
Oh, are you talking about after he gets the bottle hit across his head?
Oh, that scene that goes on forever, but it's hilarious.
Yeah, there's no plot, so there's no point in spoilers because there's no nothing happens in this movie. So at the end, when the rebels attack, the girls, one of them grabs a gun, shoots a couple of the officers. One of them smashes the other with a big bookend thing, and the commandant gets smashed in the face with a bottle. So he's got blood all over his face, and he spends literally 5 minutes swiping around, all blind in pain, with his hand and a gun, screaming, "Mein eyes! Ach, du Lieber, mein eyes!" Literally for 5 minutes this goes on.
It's amazing. But I should have timestamped this, but I actually wrote in my notes, I've already forgotten the premise.
It could have been as soon as those guys were off the screen, because
probably,
we've said before that something was kind of a Deus Ex Machina or like a MacGuffin, just really, it was just there to move the movie along or get the characters into the situation. It would kind of be unfair to call this a MacGuffin. It actually kind of seems like it's, if not for the ending where you see that the businessman is the officer that married one of the undercover agents. Twist. What a twist.
I like your response to that. It's like doo-doo-doo.
Yeah. But aside from that, the bookending footage in the very beginning and end, it could have been shot later as an attempt to make it like more legitimate of a movie, because it literally has nothing to do with the film other than that one thing.
Oh, but you know what? That would have been. I actually would have given them props if they didn't do the bookending stuff, and purely it just drops you right in, where it's like you female agents are going in, and it's like they're going to do things to your vagina, and it's like you're just going to have to suffer through it. You have to break out this one gal.
So
hold on just one second here. One of the German soldiers, one of the Nazis, is not actually happy with what he's seeing there too.
Right. I guess it's important to say that there is one dissenter amongst the Nazi ranks. He dies just the same as everyone else, but he is there.
Yeah, and he says, I feel most of what happens here is unnecessary and inhumane. I love that he says it is unnecessary. It's like, you're a Nazi.
Right. It's like, you know what?
What is it that you've been doing this entire time?
The whole, like a Holocaust of the Jews, that was fine. But this, oh my God, guys, this is too far.
Okay, so before we get to the scoring, there's also this bit about violence where I scored it a little bit lower, but it has everything to do with that end sequence where you just mentioned like how many different ways that people were killed.
Right.
And I just took that as I kind of wrote that off as like a one sequence because it was just this orgy of like how many ways can we stab someone with different objects. So I didn't individuate them.
Right. So here's the thing about the scoring. DZ and I came up with different numbers. Now that happens pretty much every time. I don't think we've ever gotten matching numbers across the board. But this time they were like radically different. So this is what I wanted to kind of say about how we score these movies and bring up. This is a very good point. For Love Camp 7, for violence, gore, or cruelty, DZ scored it a 3 and I scored it a 9. Now that's a huge difference. But after talking about it for a second, we figured out that DZ was counting most of it under the sexploitation category. And not necessarily under violence. You see, I was counting each incidence of violence as its own incident and the incidences of sexploitation as their own, even if they were happening in the same scene. So we came up with radically different numbers. For violence, gore, or cruelty, he gave it a 3, I gave it a 9. For sexploitation, he gave it a 7, and I gave it an 11.
Yeah, so we haven't had this big of a difference before, and I think again that it's partly where the scenes kind of blend, and at the same time that end sequence where there was so many different deaths, and my score would have been considerably higher if I took each individual death, but I was taking it as more of a scene where the whole sequence plays out like that. And like I was saying earlier, that the sex scenes are so long in this movie that the sexploitation scoring should be kind of weighted for that. I mean, it's like,
that's
okay, for every 3 additional minutes beyond 1 minute, it should really be scored as maybe a 2 instead of a 1.
Right. So at the heavy end, I scored it an 11 for sex, but each number amongst that 11, it represents a long scene, a very long and very explicit scene. So it's not just a flash of boobs or like a crotch grab. It represents a very long and drawn out scene of sexual torture.
This movie needed more crotch grabs.
I'd say that all movies need more crotch grabs. Just to be fair, I mean that's just me.
Yeah. So, man.
All right. Well, with that,
there's not a whole lot to say. This movie is really, in my opinion, a softcore porno that they decided to bookend with some sort of plot.
Right. It is a Skinamax level sex film.
And does it deserve to be on the list?
Yeah, I'm going to have to say that it does because of the amount, just the sheer volume of sex and sadistic, cruel torture during the sex. That, not much in the way of gore or blood, but the amount of sex and like deviant, like torturous, violent sex that happens in it, I think it does have to be on the list.
And I would say that one of the foundations for why the video nasties were created was to protect children. This is one that you would have to have a good conversation with your kid after, see if he or she accidentally saw it.
If you walked in on your kid watching this movie, you'd have to be like, oh boy. Okay, listen, Junior, so you see how he was bashing her with that leather strap? That's not what everyone does in the bed. You mean some people do that? Ah, fuck. Not necessarily that. Okay, we're going to the psychiatrist. Fuck this shit.
Or, so the thing that she's sitting on, do I have to explain why that's uncomfortable?
That's not a good thing. This is make believe, Junior. Not what people really do.
You know what would probably just solve it all, because at least for a Nazi film, as opposed to some others, you would just say Nazis are bad guys. They're worse than Darkseid and worse than Thanos.
Yeah, you see these guys? These are the bad guys. You don't want to do that to people unless they ask you. Never mind. You know what? Forget it. Never mind. Let's go out for ice cream and never speak of this again. All right.
How come they're not wearing clothes?
Love Camp 7. Rundown for Love Camp 7. It had boobs, blood, black leather, cruel torture, and almost total lack of plot, and the most laughably shitty German accents you'll find this side of a remake of Hogan's Heroes.
And Lee Frost, the director, he has quite the list, and there's no way that he won't be showing up at some point in the future. Maybe not necessarily for the video nasties, but definitely as a fan favorite for the show.
So that's Love Camp 7. Definitely deserves to be on the nasties list. A very high score. Is House on Straw Hill going to be able to beat it? Well, we'll have to see after these messages.
Fall in, maggots. Your orders are as follows. Cinema Diabolica is now on YouTube. You are to subscribe and like all videos. This is normally where one would explain why and how it helps the show, but I will not be doing that because this is not a request, sunshine. It's an order. Support the show by subscribing on YouTube and liking videos. You've got your orders. Dismissed.
Hey now. That's how I've started the second segment, I think the last 3 shows in a row.
And you keep putting a fucking song in my head.
Well, that's kind of what I'm trying to do. So there. And in this corner, hailing from 1976, weighing in at 84 minutes, it's Trauma, a.k.a. Expose, a.k.a. The House on Straw Hill.
And we did come to find out that Burnt Offerings apparently also had the title Trauma at some point.
Right. Very odd. Very odd. Kind of a generic name, though, Trauma. The IMDb style synopsis says, a paranoid writer is unable to get started on his second novel. He hires a secretary, and then his troubles really begin.
That sounds like the a Lemon Network
it was
plot right there.
It was very Lemon Networky. Apparently, this film was made for £50,000.
So what does that mean now?
I don't know. If anyone wants to do the legwork on that and see what... how much 50,000 pounds in 1976 pounds would be in 2015 dollars? Go ahead. I, however, will not be doing that.
Okay, so this has Udo Kier.
It does star Udo Kier. The second film on the Video Nasties list starring Udo Kier. Is this the first second appearance of an actor that you know of in the films we've watched so far?
I believe so.
Look at that. Udo Kier, the genre stalwart.
That would be amazing if someone had a real itch against a particular actor and they're like, I'm going to put every one of his fucking films on my list.
I'm just going to ban him because Udo Kier was in him.
It's like, Will Ferrell, sorry, you're on the Video Nasties list. But why?
So yeah, I liked this movie a lot. To kind of not bury the lead at all here. I enjoyed it. What did you think?
I liked it to a degree.
To a degree, okay, and we'll get to where you cash out, but I mean, I think.
Well, actually, I cashed out early, but then gained traction later on.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. I suppose the plot's not bad. I mean, it's so the writer rents a detached farmhouse in Essex, right? There's the house, and then there's the guest house or whatever. So he's trying to write his second novel. He wrote a novel. The first novel was a huge hit. He's writing his second one now, and he's having trouble getting past his writer's block. So he hires someone to dictate to, because I've as I've heard before as well, that a lot of writers find it easier to dictate to someone rather than writing it themselves.
So she is the dragon speaking naturally for him,
right? Yeah, let's see here. So the movie is I like it because it has aspects of a giallo, but it is not at all a giallo.
And in fact, there's a scene, I'm glad you brought that up, where there's like a Dr. Claw moment where you just see these hands, and I'm like, is that a cat? Wait a minute, what is this sequence all about? And it's really a really strange. I can't even explain why this scene was in the movie, because it didn't really fit with the rest of the plot.
Right.
But it did suggest an outside influence involved in the entire thing.
Right.
And to throw something in there too, did you get the impression that Udo was having strange premonitions?
Well, not necessarily strange premonitions. I thought they were more like flashbacks from the past of things that had happened before. You see, what's the Dario Argento movie where the writer, the stuff that his murder novels starts happening? You know what I mean? Oh,
actually, I believe that's on next week's episode.
Oh yeah, no, that's why I was thinking of it. Duh. Yeah, that was awesome.
Well, to foreshadow.
Yeah, high five, pat myself on the back for that. But yeah, that's kind of what I was getting from this, is that something had happened in his past that he was having flashbacks of, and that was maybe why he wasn't able to write.
Yeah. By the way, as the story progresses and when we get to the end, this obviously it takes place before these movies, so I'm wondering if this is the inspiration for him. But you get a Hand That Rocks the Cradles vibe from it.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And in the 80s, there were actually a few movies. Well, it also has like a babysitter. I don't know if you ever saw that one. It has the gal from Remington Steele, where she's, they hire a babysitter and she's a bit psychotic. There's a great scene where she's laughing in another room, but they think she's crying. And when they check in on her to comfort her, they realize that she's lost it. But anyway, and also in the 80s, some TV shows where they used the plot of, did this writer really write? Is this someone who actually wrote this novel? Because that does come up.
Right. Yeah, it does.
Story.
Well, so, I mean, we're not really touching on it here. So through the film, you're left to wonder who the nut is. It's clear that somebody's not right, but you're not sure if it's Udo Kier's character, and you're not sure if it's the typist's character. They both kind of display they both display characteristics of someone who's not quite right in the cabeza. But then the other person, you know what I mean? It keeps like leading you down different paths and then turning around on you to make you think the opposite, until the point that you see the typist kill two people. And that's when the movie goes completely off the rails with like weird, like lesbian sex scenes that kind of seemed tacked on.
Yeah. So you very strongly think that there's something wrong with him, and you're like, okay, well, maybe he's just an eccentric writer, an artist who's really playing up the eccentric aspect of their personality. Then you are introduced to, what you would consider probably a normal person, which would be the typist, bringing in that semblance of normality. And kind of early on, he's abusive towards her.
Right.
But she takes it in stride. And then she gets raped and kills 2 people. And she just walks back in from the field. And it's like...
yeah, she's not going to mention that? You're not going to bring up what just happened? No? Okay, fair enough.
Okay. And then as he progresses into just being more hedonistic,
right.
especially with his lover, he is like he's showing off and to a degree abusing the secretary at the same time, and she's just taking it in stride. And you're like, okay, is everybody a little bit whacked at this point?
Right, and then it becomes clear that the writer, that Udo Kier's character, is just kind of a narcissistic ass, and that he wronged the secretary at some point. They've been hinting about it, because he keeps talking about how he keeps saying to her, "Are you sure we've never met?" It does kind of unveil itself that they have met previously, and that he stole the story of his first book from her somehow, and she wants revenge.
Yeah, and that's where the hand that rocks the cradle aspect comes into it. Yeah, and the secretary, by the way, is played by Linda Hayden, and she's been in a few movies. In fact, she was in a movie we covered last year, Confessions of a Summer Camp Counselor.
Ah, yes, Confessions of a Summer Camp Counselor. I loved that one.
That was a surprise, I think, for us, especially since it was a sex comedy, and that was the first time we'd ever covered that. Actually, we did a lot of firsts last year.
Yeah, last year was a cherry-popping period.
Okay, she, by the way, also has Saturday panties and a dildo.
I forgot about the Saturday panties. Yes, but he does go through her luggage and finds her dildo, and manhandles her underwear. And he's just a creep, and he's not someone you can get behind. And then to see in the end of the film where she's stalking him, and I'm not going to ruin the ending for you, because I think you should see it. I enjoyed it, but it is a non-standard film. It doesn't really fit into the standard framework of a giallo. It doesn't fit into the standard framework of a regular drama or a horror. It kind of is its own thing, and that's not altogether good.
Yeah, it's a little messy, but once you get through it, because I think the beginning is a bit of a drag. Even though you're introduced to one of Udo Kier's fetishes, which is wearing rubber latex gloves when he has sex.
The first time that he puts on the gloves, I thought about he's putting gloves on, and I was like, that's a bad sign. Usually it's a bad sign when the gloves come off, so I was like, oh, the gloves are off, but now I'm like, oh, the gloves are on.
Oh, well, I thought he was into fisting or something, but anyway.
That could have been, you don't know. He might have been a fister.
Yeah, it swirls into madness. I think that was probably the attempt, because there is a sequence where Udo's racing all over the countryside, and it's like, okay, everybody's just fucking lost it at this point. And there's only one two. There's the housekeeper and then Udo's lover, who are about the only normal people in it, but even then bad things happen to them. So.
I don't know about the housekeeper being a normal person, because the housekeeper is like, when the typist tells her to leave, she goes, I don't know about this. This does not make me happy. The madam of the house told me I was to watch the house. Yes, I'm very unhappy indeed. It's like, what? Show an emotion, you fucking robot. What the hell?
Well, she was probably a non-actress, but at the same time, she may have had a thing for Udo too.
She probably was the actual caretaker of the house that they were filming in.
That would have been funny. It's like, no, this is an actor thing. We need another body here.
But yeah, the movie shows potential. I just wish that it followed through.
Yeah, it has a lot more moments than a lot of movies that fail. I don't think this movie really fails. I think it actually gets its point across. Does that perfectly. But what kind of was throwing me off more than anything is that Udo was dubbed over.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of hard to watch someone that you're familiar with, and I would have been perfectly fine with hearing him in his especially when he does his overdrawn accent, because he tends to pull that even heavier in a lot of movies.
Right.
And I would have been fine, but it's like they were trying to sell us on him being an American writer, and I felt that was a bit unnecessary. But otherwise, the movie works to a degree. And like I said, some of the scenes are like at the beginning, I actually wrote down twice that it was just so slow.
Yeah, it's not that slow. I mean, stuff's happening. It might not be unfolding to your particular, you wish things would be moving faster, but it moves along. It doesn't drag, really. It's just, it's like I said, it doesn't live up to its potential. There is more possibility there for a great movie. The framework is definitely there. It's just they don't execute on the level that they would need to for that to be top notch. It's like MacGyver. He's able to make a nuclear bomb out of chewing gum and toothpicks. So he's executing on a very high level given his tools. And they had some tools, but they just didn't have the ability to execute on the level that would have made this one a great movie.
I think maybe an aspect of it is that they got so lost in trying to present the madness that was going on and trying to mislead you, right? That but I they think got a little caught up in it.
I think that's kind of the point. It's meant to be. Well, maybe I'm projecting here, but I feel like maybe I just want it to have been this way. But it feels like it was supposed to have been claustrophobic. Away from everyone, out in the sticks, inside this house, just trapped in the house, just me and her with our, personalities clashing. And, it's obviously leading up to some big crescendo. That's kind of what I felt like. I felt like it was meant to be claustrophobic and closed off like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I liked it. I enjoyed watching it. I probably won't watch it again, but I'm glad I saw it.
I might watch it a few years down the road, but that's when we do like an Udo Kier extravaganza.
I was saying, I was going to say during our Udo Kier extravaganza in 2018. So yeah, House on Straw Hill, trauma / expose / etc. Had 5 scenes of violence, gore, or cruelty, 9 scenes of sexploitation. It had Udo Kier, lesbian lovemaking, mystery, intrigue, and the least offensive use of rubber gloves this side of my last prostate exam.
Indeed. Does it deserve to be on the list?
I'm going to say no. And if the answer is actually yes, it's just barely, because there's really not much in the way of explicit anything. So other than the lesbian sex scene, which was a little drawn out, there really wasn't anything deserving of the video nasties. Now, this is exactly like the previous film we had watched where we were like, this movie doesn't deserve to be on the video nasties. Why is it? Oh, maybe it's because of the lesbian sex scene. Do you think that's the case here?
I actually do. I think, and also the little bit of the fetishism and the rape sequence. I think all of those really tie up into why I think it was put on the nasties. Obviously, not for the violence. The violence in this is so low key as to almost be unnecessary. That, you could have just seen more after effect as opposed to the actual play out of it. But yeah, I'm going to say it's strange how often the moral majority are afraid of lesbians.
Right. Especially because they're the least scary. I'll say that.
It's too many lips.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole. Send all of your complaint emails to dz@cinemadiabolica.com. And those won't go anywhere because that's not a thing.
Because it doesn't exist until F-13 creates one just to see if anybody actually sends in.
So the point that I'm making here is that I feel like there's movies like Love Camp 7, like Cannibal Holocaust, where you couldn't edit them enough to be publicly viewable, right?
You mean just to be able to play on the bus on your laptop or on your portable? You
can't edit those movies enough to make them decent and acceptable for the mainstream. Violence and or sex and or nudity and exploitation is too deeply ingrained in what they are. That's not the case for this movie. That's not what this movie is. Those things are added in as it's like a topping. It's like the pepperoni on the pizza to punctuate, to make a point, to be shocking in a moment, to accentuate that scene and the point of that scene. But it's not what the movie is about. The movie is about more than that. Not much more, but it is about more than that. So I feel like with the right amount of editing, or if they had shot some of those scenes a little differently, like you had said, seeing After Effects and or off-screen occurrences, you could have gotten a very similar effect and had a movie that does not at all deserve to be on the Video Nasties list. As it stands, I feel like it probably does by just a tiny bit, but that's kind of it.
Yeah, I'm going to say that it really doesn't belong on it overall. In fact, I was just imagining how you could edit it. I would try to punch up the kind of the madness aspect and edited scenes where instead of actually seeing really any sex, just show Udo putting on the gloves and approaching the woman and going, oh,
right.
And then it cuts to like something else. It's like
it got to the point, it made its point. You don't need to see the explicit sex scene because it doesn't serve to further the plot.
Yeah, and then you would easily fill in, oh, something really kind of dirty happened here, but I don't know what to make of it. What do the rubber gloves mean? I think it could certainly be edited to actually punch up a lot of things that I think they were going for to enhance the madness. I think would be an important aspect, and then it would be presentable. Hell, you could probably play it on TV at that point.
And I think sometimes it's more powerful when you don't see what happened. Like in American Psycho, when Christian Bale's character sends the prostitutes into his bedroom, and then before going in there, he picks up a wire hanger, and then the next thing you see is the prostitutes running out crying. I'm like, what the fuck happened in there?
Yeah, that was the most chill. Just seeing him choosing the wire coat hanger and then walking into the room. And the fact that, if not mistaken, one of the hookers had actually been with him before, and he was able to convince her to come back because he said it wasn't going to happen again.
Right. So yeah.
Or that might be the before scene. But in any case, it was super, super effective.
Right. So House on Straw Hill, it loses to Love Camp 7. Love Camp 7 is for sure the nastier of the two and will be the one that moves on. I got more enjoyment out of House on Straw Hill, but I guess that's not what we're here for, so there you go. Your winner this week is Love Camp 7.
Hey, but we can still make the recommendation, and it's like we would definitely recommend House on Straw Hill over Love Camp 7.
Right, Love Camp 7 you don't
unless you're in the mood for whacking it.
Well, I would recommend several other things for whacking it because it doesn't really serve to be much more than like I don't know. It doesn't really hit on any of the beats. If you're into like Nazi exploitation and like, SS gear, if that's your kink, it doesn't really. The only guy that really wears that in the film is this like oily, pudgy, disgusting guy, the commandant. If rough sex, S&M, if that's your thing, there's tons of better stuff out there. Do
you have links?
Yes, I'll send you a
well, no, not for
file.
Me, for the audience. I don't care.
No,
Nazis, not for me.
They can find their own. But yeah, as far as Nazi exploitation goes, this was the first Nazi exploitation film released in 1969. There are several others that follow that we're going to be covering in this series that are tons better, or at the very least nastier. But for now, Love Camp 7 comes out our victor.
On top
of Old Smoky, that is correct. So that was a good one, DZ. Can you do you have our spreadsheet open? Can you tell us what we're going to be looking at next week?
Okay, so for next week, we have Cannibal Apocalypse.
Ooh, a nice John Saxon film.
And Tenebrae.
Ooh, yes, Tenebrae. So folks, Tenebrae and Cannibal Apocalypse. Yes, we've seen these two movies to death, but it will be a treat to watch them again and talk about them again.
Okay, just to also drop something, I believe the following week's episode will be a fucking doozy too, and we will not spoil it. We will let you know what that's going to be next week. With the next episode.
Or something like
Cannibal Apocalypse and Tenebrae. Ooh.
That's going to be a good one. I actually look forward to watching those.
It's like, oh, hey, look, we have a bump of improvement on what we're going to watch.
And we won't be as miserable while we're recording the show. So that is your episode for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. We sure enjoyed recording it. If you liked the show, subscribe on YouTube, thumbs up the videos, subscribe and share the videos and the episodes on Facebook /Twitter /whatever your preferred social media is. It sure helps us out a lot, and we sure do appreciate it. Yes.
Hey, if someone would be daring enough to have a response video dressed as a Nazi snapping on rubber gloves.
I'm really, really depressed that I stopped my outro to let you say that. So I am F13.
This is DZ.
And we will see you at the movies.